Good morning. Good morning. How are you on this Memorial Day weekend?
Wonderful.
Doing well? Yeah. You're looking good. Yeah. I love that Rumi poem because it reminds me that we constantly think about things as if they're separate. As if the thing that makes you and makes me is different. Do you have that book here? As if the thing that makes you and makes me is different. We have so much going on in this world that's about that. We have so much in this world that's about the separation and how different we are. Now, I do want to talk about the fact that there is a difference between recognizing and appreciating our diversity and also recognizing and appreciating the fact that we came from the same place, that we're part of the same thing. It's as if God loved itself so much that it created me and you so it could experience the different facets, the different multidimensionality of itself. So that's where we get to step into the appreciation of the facets. And yet we also get to step into the idea of us all being one, the one thing. So listen to this again. God gives the things of this earth a certain color, variety, and value, causing childish folk to argue over it. When a piece of dough is baked in the shape of a camel or lion, these children bite their fingers excitedly in their greed. Both lion and camel turn to bread in the mouth, but it is futile to tell this to the children. Let me argue over the camel. I want the camel. Because the camel's better than this. The camel's better than the lion. And did you see our country or our society doing that?
Here we argue about elephants and donkeys.
Elephants and donkeys, that's right. Yes, well-spoken, Vance. Yeah. Well, my title this week is The Day the Devil Died. What do we believe in if we don't have a devil? I remember, I'm sure you've heard this, oh, the devil made me do it. The devil made me do it. Well, what if the devil didn't make you do it? What if there's no devil? Then what? Then you did it yourself. That's right. I was driving the other day, and I think I've told this story, but Gina and I were driving to go to a store, and I was in this parking lot that was a very tiny parking lot, and it had like one row of cars, and then like a row for you to drive down, and there was a car pulling out in front of me, so I stopped, and while I was stopped, there was a car that was also pulling out right where I was stopped, and they pulled out and they hit me, right? And I mean, I was like stopped. And they backed out of their parking lot space like 3 feet into hitting me. And so I just turned the car off and I got out and, I went to exchange information and I indeed had a dent on the side of my car. And the guy was so rude to me. He was so rude because he expected me to be rude to him. And we were having this conversation and there was just like this animosity that was coming out, like as if I was being mean to him. So he was responding in kind. And Gina finally said, "Don't you get it? She's trying to tell you that she doesn't think she's going to take this to the insurance company. Don't you get that?" and then he got it. And then he was like, "Oh, because I was being a point of love. I wasn't trying to say, oh, you're so wrong, you're so bad. Let me accuse you. Let me get mad. Let me go all road ragey on you. I was just exchanging information just in case. I felt like, would it be necessary or not? You never know. What if some other damage is done besides this little dent? And there wasn't any other damage. So I ended up not calling it in. I still have a dent in the side of my car. Oh, well, it's very small. It's okay. I love my car. The cars were meant to be used, right? But it just illustrates how so often there's that expectation of conflict. That idea that there's going to be something, confrontational going on. There's this book, this woman wrote this book called Joyce in the Belly of the Big Truck. And her name is Joyce Cassio. She's talking about her truck driving days. And she has a story about whenever she first started truck driving. It was a winter day. Snow was everywhere. The roads were all, plowed, so that was okay. But it was definitely like a blizzardy day. And she's driving in her truck, and it's her first winter driving a truck. So it's a 65 zone, so she's going 55. And as she's driving her truck, she notices a bridge in the distance, and she thinks, oh, there might be ice on that bridge, so I'm just going to be cautious. But then she also notices this car that's kind of like zipping by, and so it zips by past her, and she thinks, if we're going this kind of same speed, then we'll probably hit the bridge in the same time, and just in case it's a little icy, maybe I'll just back off a little. And she notices these two teenage girls that are jabbing away in the car seat, just having a great time, not really paying attention. And as they get to the bridge, lo and behold, they hit a patch of ice, and they start going back and forth, and then they hit the divider, and they spin around, and they stop directly in front of the semi. And so she is very cautious and tries to stop her very large vehicle, and she very diligently works at stopping it, and it stops just a couple feet away from straight hitting that car. And she was like, wow, I had an intuition about this. I felt like I was going to hit that. And so the girls were kind of like shocked, and of course they were looking straight into the semi that was coming at them, and they didn't get hit, and it turned out their car wasn't very damaged, and so everybody was able to drive away peacefully. Well, later in the day, her mud flap falls off of her truck. So she goes to take the truck to the mechanics, and she decides to have a Subway. And in order to get to the Subway, she actually has to walk through, the mechanics are in an alleyway. And there's like this alleyway that she walks through, and there's a White House, and then across the street there's a Subway. And she notices that as she's walking through this alley that there's a woman with her two dogs, but the dogs are not on a leash. And she thinks to herself, well, I'm a dog person. Like, it's okay. I'm friendly with dogs. I get along well with dogs. But she has this intuition that I really need to not go. I need to not go this way. But she keeps convincing herself, like, no, I'm cool. I mean, if the woman had dogs that were, aggressive, then she wouldn't let them out. And so she's kind of talking to herself, still getting these messages. And as soon as she gets to where the house is, the dogs run after her. And one of them actually jumps up and it bites her side. Fortunately, she has a coat on and a sweater on and everything. And then she falls to the ground, and the other dog starts biting her leg, and she's screaming, and the woman's screaming, and finally the dogs stop and they go off. And she's really shaken up. And whenever she went home that night, she thought, what is the difference between these two things? Why did I behave differently? And in both situations, she sensed a potential problem, but one she heeded and one she ignored. Why did she do that? And after much thought, she came to the conclusion that when she's given a warning in which others can be hurt, she listens. But when it's only her, she questions it or she ignores it. She believed that others matter more than her. She believed herself was less significant. But she recognizes the sacred and the divine in other people, but not in herself. So when we understand that God is in and through everyone and everything, then we start treating ourselves as the divine being that we deserve to be treated as. And we also treat others as that divine being. So where's the devil in this? Did the devil make the dogs do that? Or perhaps, everybody in every one of those situations was conspiring for her to get that. The whole world was conspiring for her to really get that on a deep level. So what if those things that you think are evil or wrong are actually the world conspiring to wake us up to who we really are? And I know that might be hard to really get, especially when there's mass murders going on, especially when there's so much war happening on this planet. I know that there's a lot of case for people to believe in evil. There's a lot of reason, there's a lot of evidence. Did you know, thank you Elijah for this, that there is no power for cold in the universe? There is only a type of energy that's called heat energy. There really is no power for cold. There's no energy that creates cold. There's only the energy of heat. Coldness shows up when there's a lack of heat present. There's not that there's a force for evil in the world. It's the absence of a thing creates the experience of something else. It's the absence of our connection to each other that creates this appearance of evil. We're reading this book this month, The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible by Charles Eisenstein. We have them for sale for $22. Only 2 left. So if you want to get them, you should see, like, I've dog-eared like so many pages of this. It's like crazy highlights. Oh my goodness. I can't even, there's too much content in here for me to even talk about it all. But what I really love the way he articulates how our world is shifting from this world of separation into this global vision. The global vision is our yearly theme for Centers for Spiritual Living. And our weekly theme, our weekly quote is that we believe in our own soul, our own spirit, and our own destiny. And we understand that the life of all is the life of God. And that's just what he talks about in this book. But he talks about how our story has been, our cultural story, our story of humanity has been that we are a separate individual amongst other separate individuals in a universe that's separate from you. It's like, back 40 years ago, they were teaching about how this is like a meat body with its own kind of, there's systems in place that make things work, but there's no intelligence behind those systems. And because we're all separate from each other, there's nothing between here and there, because we're all separate, then we create this idea that we're separate from each other, which it feels like we are. Like, it feels like I have my own feelings, you have your own feelings, I can't read your mind. Sometimes I can read people's minds like my mom, but other people I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so I do feel separate. But that's partly because we've created this story of separation. It's our old story. It's an old paradigm that the whole planet has been buying into. And when we buy into that story of separation, then there's an effect, right? The effect of competition, the effect of God versus the devil, right? The effect of better than, or being only goal-oriented. The effect of being the master of something. The effect of living in a silo, thinking that you're all alone, that we're not connected. He proposes in this book that we're writing a new story. It's called The Story of Interbeing. It's a story of reconciliation, of interconnectedness. And the idea of that new story is that my being partakes of your being and that of all beings. It's beyond interdependency, it's relational. So what we do to another, we do to ourselves. What we do to ourselves, we do to another. that every act is significant and it has an effect on the entire cosmos. The purpose and consciousness and intelligence are innate properties of the matter in the universe. Everything is intelligent. I know that there's the native people of the world talk about animism. And what animism is the idea that a rock has a spirit in it. A tree has a spirit in it. A mountain has a spirit in it. And I was retelling my experience of Peru to one of my good friends that I hadn't seen in about a year and a half. And I was talking to her about the fact that when a month before I went to Peru, I got this really bad knee issue, and I could barely walk, and I really like I was supposed to be walking a lot because in Peru you walk a lot, and I was supposed to be kind of getting myself ready for it, but I just couldn't walk. I was unable to walk. And when I got to Peru, we had this experience with a shaman. He's a healer. He's known for physical healings, like physically healing people's bodies. And so I saw him. Benito is his name, and I saw him and I said, Benito, can you heal my knee, because I can't bend my knee. I haven't been able to do it for a month. And he said, we're going to have this ceremony tonight. It's called a gazpacho ceremony. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pray to the mountains, because the mountains are the healers. They're the doctors of the planet. And so I'd like you to call forth any mountains that you know, any things of your area where you were born or where you're around. And I'd like you to call forth during the ceremony. I'd like you to speak those names of those mountains. And I'd like you to do it in a mantra form and ask them to heal you. The mountains here, the Machu Picchu, also the mountains of your home. And for me, those Sandia Mountain from Albuquerque, that's my hometown. So I had these different mountains that I called forth in this gazpacho ceremony, and I asked them, I said, will you please heal me? I'd love to be healed by you. I'd love to be honored by you. And so I did. I said it over and over and over and over again, and the ceremony happened, and I was like, okay, well, still can't bend my knee. But the next day I woke up, and as I was in bed, I was literally with Kathy was my roommate, and I was in bed, and I just moved my knee, and I heard a pop, and I was like, I can bend it more. And it was so I could bend it like this, then I could bend it like that. The next day I'm walking and I hear a pop, and I have I can do a 45-degree angle. The next day I hear another pop, and then I can bend it more. And I was like, when I was walking, it was like when I was, connected. And so I think it was 3 or 4 days later, I literally hiked from the ruins of Machu Picchu to the top of the Mount Machu Picchu, which is a 3,000-foot climb up at 11,000 feet elevation. And I hiked that with no problem at all. Does it make sense? What we teach is that everything is connected. If everything has the consciousness of God in it, could it be possible that everything's alive? Could it be possible that everything is teeming with consciousness? That there's an intelligence in everything? I love the Lego movie. Do you guys know this? I know I've talked about the Lego movie before, but it's so interesting how the Lego movie and this book and our theme this week all connect. It's just so cool. So the Lego movie teaches about and I'm going to, if you haven't seen it, you have to see it, first of all. I'll just say, you have to see the Lego movie. The second thing I need to tell you is there's a little spoiler alert. At the end, there's an evil character, right? There's an evil character. Now, normally, in a lot of our movies in our society, and this, I'm going to say, is our story of separation, where the evil character has to be killed off, destroyed, right? All the superhero things, there's an evil character, what do? You kill him. Well, in this movie, there's an evil character, and the hero of the movie doesn't kill the evil character. The hero loves the evil character and acknowledges and appreciates the character. And And what happens is the evil character just melts and loves this hero back, and they become friends. And there's a connection at the end between them. Like the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, right? Yeah.
Joseph Campbell in Slaying the Dragon, he says, instead of slaying the dragon, befriend the dragon.
Befriend the dragon. Exactly. Joseph Campbell says, befriend the dragon. Now, I want to tell you this because there's a story of this guy. His name is Pancho Ramos Sturl. I don't really know how to pronounce his name. Lives in Oakland, California. He, in 2011, he was part of the Occupy movement. He's still part of the Occupy movement. But in 2011, he was involved in a protest in UC Berkeley. He dropped out of a program. He was in astrophysics. He had a PhD. He was going for a PhD in astrophysics. And he found out that some of the professors were actually working on nuclear weapons programs. And so he decided that he wasn't interested in getting a degree so he could find out how to destroy the planet. He wanted to get a degree in order to help the planet. So he dropped out and he started a protest against Berkeley. And their protest was it was a peaceful protest. Everybody was sitting out meditating. They were fasting. So after 9 days, the university got tired of it. And they wanted to make an example of the peaceful protesters. So they went and they called the cops to get them out of there. Now, they were kind of linked together like this. They were linked arm in arm. And so the cops came to come and arrest them. And the police officer grabbed him and picked him up and threw him against the ground. So, and then handcuffed him really tightly. And he looked at the police officer. Now, I just want to say, if you were in a peaceful protest, you were doing nothing but sitting down in a public space, and somebody did that to you, how do you think you'd react? Would you be a little angry? Would you want to say some swear words, maybe? Would you want to look at the cops as bad, as the enemy? Well, he didn't. He didn't. Instead, he looked at the officer in the eye and he said with love, and with no attempt to make him feel guilty, he said, "Brother, I forgive you. I'm not doing this for me. I'm not even doing this for you. I'm doing this for your children and the children of your children." And the officer was like, he didn't know what to do with that. Like, oh, I'm, manhandling this guy, and he's responding with love. He's responding with kindness. And so then Pancho said, "Brother, let me guess. Do you like Mexican food?" And the guy's like, "Well, yes." And he said, "How about, I have this place in the city. I know this place in the city that has the best carnitas and fajitas and quesadillas. So when I get done with this and you get done with this, I'd like to break my fast with you. What do you say?" And the officer accepted. Yeah.
It's like you in the parking lot with the pump.
Right. Because when we respond differently to what's coming at us, we change the situation. It's not that the officer was bad. He felt like he was doing his job. But sometimes we need a little love to awaken us up to the humanity of who we are. In the Tao Te Ching, it says, "There's no greater misfortune than underestimating your enemy. Underestimating your enemy means thinking that he is evil. Thus you destroy your treasures and you become an enemy yourself." When we believe in the evil in the world, we're the ones creating it. If we want to create a new idea for this world, an idea of possibility, of being connected and actually shifting the planet to being a loving planet in all areas, we're the ones who have to create that. We have to create the idea in ourselves that there is no evil out in the world. We have to create the idea that there is only love, and then we get to be the bearers of that truth. And the more we create that in our lives, the more we do that, it catches like wildfire. Other people get it. It talks to the humanity of who we really are. So, what ways can you be that love? In what ways can you notice that you're seeing somebody else as the other and try and find maybe some kind of connection with them, some type of unification with them? And most of all, remember to cherish your own sacredness. Treat those who treat you badly with kindness. And the only way to heal the world of this belief in evil is by doing one loving action at a time. That's all it takes. And I think we can do it. Let's pray.